What's happening, everybody? It's your big homie D.O.U.G.H checking in one time for the one time back on this first day of October, and it's fouled and fell,
Yeah, it's the first of the month.
fouled and fell. The first of the month has failed,
Yeah,
and we here, first
we
day of
here.
October,
Yes, indeed.
and we have a very special guest. I gotta run it up real quick because it's very seldom that you go to as an artist. Let me explain this. As an artist, it's very seldom that you go to another city and be embraced by the who's who of the city,
Mm.
uh, and actually are just giving the key. Hey, you want to go here? Hey, you need to go here. Get you want some good catfish? Go on over here, man. You need to check out Ricky Wings. Hey,
Yeah.
I got some nice
Shout out to Rookie's Wings.
I got some nice Caribbean food, all types of stuff.
Shout out to Mangoes.
Yes, and this is one of those people that I met on my journey, traveling through and around Huntsville, because I feel like I've been like Huntsville is Huntsville, but then you have Florence,
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
got Muscle Shoals.
yeah.
Uh, man, it's a couple of other little cities I've been through in Alabama, and I'm like,
Been around the world now, yeah.
yeah, I didn't even know it existed, and it's full of flavor, full of culture.
Yeah.
And on today's podcast of Donuts Dough, we have none other than Tim Miller.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Glad to be here for sure.
And Tim Miller is, again, I always have these people that do multiple things, but the main thing that he does at this moment, he is an on-air personality at 94.1 down in Huntsville.
Yeah.
Also the promotions director
Yeah.
there. He also has his own radio station or podcast, Paradox East, as black owned.
For
We want to
sure.
make sure that we shout them out.
Run it up.
Have worked on several projects with artists out of Huntsville and just that community of artists
Yeah.
from CC Simone,
Yeah.
KGZ,
Yeah.
DJ Cartel,
Yep.
the Neighbors.
Yep. Neighbor the gang.
So yeah, and this is a person who again works behind the scenes. You might not see Tim, you know, in the forefront of everything.
I'm not the superstar.
But Tim got his hands in the background making things work.
Yeah.
Sort of like Geppetto, pulling the strings,
Yeah.
baby. So
Yeah.
we got you here from all the way from Huntsville today, and I greatly appreciate you for pulling up and taking time out of your busy schedule to just come talk shop with me.
Hey man, I'm proud to be of service. I mean, you're a friend, a comrade, a colleague in this business, this life we're in, and you always pull up, show love to Huntsville, which is why we've created this camaraderie with one another. So yeah, it's only right, man.
Man, and like I said, I appreciate y'all embracing me, just coming down there for the block parties and
First annual block party.
and
Dope.
and
Yeah.
and different things. And that's actually how I met you, was at the block party. I think it was behind Con Society at that
Con
time.
Society on Pratt Avenue. That building has been demolished since. It's sad. It makes me cry.
Right.
I'm not gonna do that here. But we're in our 7th year of the block party. And
Wow.
and I believe you performed at the first one, and I want to say you came to the second or third one.
Yeah.
One of those years. So yeah.
I think I've been to 3
See,
in total.
My arithmetic is terrible. So.
Yeah. Man, but it was just the atmosphere. It just felt like a second home. So
yeah, in the first one, we had no idea what we were doing. We literally built a plane in the air, as they say. We just had an idea, and we wanted to do a block party. Shout out to Joe Marshall from our Con Society, and of course the whole Con Society crew. And we literally put that together in a couple weeks. And now what that little thing has become has grown into 7 other block parties. So it's grown. You were there, your family's out there. I said, man, he got a whole operation going. They selling merch. They got hats. They got T-shirts. They got everything, So yeah, you definitely did it.
Man, and like I said, I just appreciate the love that y'all showed me, man. But man, let's go further back.
Okay.
To where Tim Miller came from. On your bio, it says that you was born in Nairobi, Kenya.
Yeah, well, see, I would say I was conceived in Nairobi, Kenya. You know,
Okay,
so
conceived.
long story short, my mother went to college in Kenya.
Oh
She
wow.
left Oakwood. She got a scholarship to go to college in Kenya, Nairobi, and she went out there for college and met my father. And I wish, as the story would go, I was hoping that they would have stayed there in Kenya so I could have, grew up there a little bit. But she came back to the States to finish her degree and to finish her scholarship out. And we moved to Birmingham. And then from Birmingham, we stayed there for about 3 years. And then we moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota. So, the home of Prince and, Graham Central Station and all that. And so my brother gets the bragging rights of being born in Minneapolis. I'm like, man, I just missed it.
Right,
Birmingham's great as well, Birmingham. And then from Minneapolis, came back to Huntsville. And, we've been around the world a little bit here and there. And Huntsville's been home for sure. Like, definitely raised me, west side of Huntsville, all the way to, of course, north side as well. And, now raising my kids, in Huntsville. So, yeah.
So with being born in Kenya, moving to Birmingham, Minneapolis, how would you say that being in those different regions of the world, influence your upbringing?
It showed me that the world is bigger than I can see. When you walk out your door or when you're looking at the map and you think your problems are just these that they're never going to end, or when you look at the possibilities of things, it let me know how big the world is. And growing up, it let me know that we're pretty much all the same. We all want to grow. We all want to respect our elders. We all want to be successful. We love family. We cherish family. So no matter what ethnicity you are, we all have some of the same values. I won't say we all have them, but we have when you get down to the core of it, Black, white, Asian, Native American, African, whatever, we all have the same core values. So what it taught me moving those different places is just the flavor of life, the flavor of music, people, the different music I was coming up around, the different types of people. No one could ever track down my accent when I, was coming in school and where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from Huntsville. I'm from Birmingham. No, you sound like you're from somewhere else. Nah, I just moved all the time. So I went to a different school in Huntsville every semester. So I always make the joke that I went to every school in Huntsville because we just moved so often. And again, some by circumstance and some by just life trials and whatnot. And then the other thing was just mom was out here moving and hustling, SCI, Bowen, and working for Johnny Cochran and moving here and there and everywhere, and just brought us in these different situations. So I think for the most part, if I were to, I tell parents all the time, please, please, please get your kids out of the state, like move them around, give them some vacations, let them go to summer camp, let them go stay with Aunt so-and-so in Kentucky, let them
Shout out to Kentucky.
let them live, they'll be okay. Like we're so, well, then I don't know if they're big enough, if they'll survive, if they're, no, we came up pretty good. So expose them to more different things and especially different cultures and continents and so on and so forth.
Right. I mean, in these places that you named, Birmingham and Minneapolis, have a rich culture of music in both cities. A lot of people don't know about Birmingham, and a lot of people don't, realize what came out of Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Other than Prince, you got Mint Condition. And I'm drawing a blank. I can't really think of the other people that came out of
So many
Minneapolis,
people.
but it's
You
so
got
many.
Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis. You got that whole, flight time movement. And not only that, but shout out to, our OG, Cody Gopher, friend of ours, keeping us informed on the history and again, making it cool to dig through the history of Huntsville. And I look at people like William Hampton that, I learn about Huntsville from, or Cody, or, just different people that I meet that can tell me about Huntsville and Birmingham and give me the history of that, because we got so many pioneers, from Huntsville, from the Muscle Shoals area, from Tennessee, from that. We just have so many people that we could champion our own if we just did our research and, and again, cherish the people that we have right here in our backyard. We got Grammy Award winners in our area, in our neighborhood, in our community, but we get so hyped when we see
Oh,
this person on, some podcast or some, TV show, and we treat them like celebrities, and we don't even know them. They don't even pay
right,
taxes
right.
where we live, and these people, they come to the city, they get a bag, 30, 40 grand, and they dip. But we have people that we live with, that we shop with, that our kids go to school with, that we go to church with, that we play sports with, that we grow up with, that are successful, that live right in our neighborhood. So that's, the hashtag listen to your neighbors. It definitely comes from that, because we got people that we champion. I'm a champion of D.O.U.G.H. Donuts with D.O.U.G.H.
Yeah. I mean, and man, what you said is spot on to why I have this podcast. It's like highlighting people that you might walk past every day and never know what they done or what they contribute to the culture that you love.
For sure.
And I look at people even from down your way, like Kelvin Wooten. It's like, dude, he's been produced on Anthony Hamilton's album, Jill Scott, Raphael Sadiq. I can just go on. But
Yeah.
he's just a regular dude. Like, you know what I'm saying?
He's
I mean,
he's a
not
neighbor, and he's relatable. He's somebody you can talk to. He just did a class with Ben Lovett at Lee High School for music and career development. These are Grammy Award winners, and Ben Lovett's from the group Mumford and Sons, and now he's over at the Orion Amphitheater. So these are guys that you can talk to, that you don't have to pay some $5,000 to go to the conference, and nothing wrong with that. But these are people that you can ask for advice, guidance, and learn from their mistakes, their life, and you can ask them questions about your career path and what you want to do in entertainment and music, and they're right in your community. And then, not to mention, side note, Kelvin Wooten, is a friend of Tony Terrell. So when we started the morning show at 94.1, and we're thinking about how do we get a jingle? How do we get a morning? We got to get a song, a theme song for the show and whatnot. Man, Kelvin Wooten cooked that thing up on some like West Coast, Southern California funky bounce. So we got a jingle from Kelvin Wooten,
wow.
So yeah, y'all check that out. Tony with T-Mill in the morning, 94.1 WHRP.
And he hit us with the radio voice. Y'all hear that, folks? But nah, man,
Yeah.
going back to Huntsville, growing up in that area, um, and just your development as coming up as a kid. I know you mentioned that you had a brother. Was there any other siblings that you had, or was it just you and him? And
by blood, just my brother. My blood brother. He's younger than me, so he's a few years younger, and he's representing out there in Houston, Texas. Musician as well. Just again, he's I always joke that the older I got, the more we got closer, and we weren't really close while we were young, because it was hey, don't wear my shoes, don't wear my clothes, you can't hang with me. And just seeing how much he's grown now, and he took to a lot of the things that I was teaching him growing up, and just not knowing that he was taking after me. It's just the parallels, and we both have kids now, and just watching us grow, and him growing into his own man in his own life. So man, he is doing it. Phenomenal photographer. The things that I couldn't get right in photography, he completely took the ball and ran with it. And again, a musician, dope artist as well. So shout out to Charles Miller. And I was thinking about this coming up here. I'm jealous of him again, because he took my grandfather's name. So we're the last. He and I are the last boys of my grandfather's name, and he's got his name, Charles Miller. And I'm like, man, you got granddaddy name, man. So you
better become something.
right.
Don't be messing up granddaddy name.
Yeah.
Don't be out here
of course, our kids are gonna continue that, that name, but we're the last, two of him.
And with that being said, you said that he's a artist as well. How much did music play a part of your upbringing? Like, was there, were your parents musicians or anything like that? Or
well, my mom raised me, in one of those stories, dad was a slime ball, but mom raised me, and music was always a part of her life. My mom had a lot of surgeries coming up. She out, skating in ninth grade, had a bad hip accident. And the story she told me was, I asked her, how did you learn all these songs? My mom is a jukebox top 40. I mean, you name it, from country to bluegrass to blues to jazz to R&B. She knows everything. And I asked her, I said, Mom, how do you know all this music? Because if we're riding in the car, if we're at the doctor's office, if she knows the music that would play in the doctor's office, the little jazz, the little whole
the
music,
music,
at the dentist's office. How do you know who this is? And she said she just spent a lot of time traveling. My mom, grew up a military kid. My grandparents, being in the military, serving in the military, she's traveling all around the world. Traveling in all these different places. My mom can speak German. She speaks French. She speaks a little bit of Swahili, and music just encompassed her whole entire life. So of course, coming up, I heard all the music that she was playing. I heard all the Fela Kuti and man, you name it, the Meters and goodness, Jim Croce, and of course, James Brown and all of that music. So it was just magical, hearing that music. And I think James Brown was probably the first one where I didn't understand what I was hearing. It was like, what is this? Like, how? I don't know what this is doing to me.
Some of James Brown's song, he ain't even making a word.
Right. He's speaking it. And he's talking to somebody.
We don't know who, but we felt it.
We felt it. And so she knows all the songs. She would sing all the songs. My mom was the mom that would pick us up from school, listening to music. And by the third day of her picking us up from school, we know the song. She's listening to Johnny Gill, and she's listening to Prince, and she's listening to, everything that's coming on through the 80s and the 90s, and introducing us to hip hop. My mom introduced us to hip hop. So she's everything, and my brother and I talk about this to this day. She came up, through those eras, and then she introduced us to hip hop, and now she's still listening to music that we listen to this day. I don't know why my mom knows all the words to WAP and City Girls and everything, but she's very diverse and phenomenal singer as well. An alto, so the inspirational choir of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, she grew up in that, and days of us just sitting in choir rehearsals and Mom, I'm ready to go. Like, how long does this take? Right. And sitting there, but appreciating the sound of voice and choirs and singing and quartets and things like that. So music has always been a part of my life for sure.
And growing up, did you play any instruments? How did her love of music infect you or affect you to want to do what you're doing currently?
Oh man, everyone in my family, my mother, my grandfather, my grandmother, my aunts, everyone plays music, plays instruments except me. So wow. I never took right. I never took the time to really sit down and learn instruments. But what I did was, around 10 years old, my grandfather, he used to record the sermons and the music at Oakwood College, which is now called Oakwood University. And he would, he was the guy in the booth, recording the sermons and the things in the studio. And he had a boom box at home. And I'll never forget this. It was a Magnavox dual cassette. It had an 8-band equalizer on the top, filters. It had a mic input. I mean, this thing, I'm still looking for this boom box because it was ahead of its time. And somehow, I don't know, no one taught me this. There was no YouTube. There's no encyclopedia. Somehow I figured out how to make pause tapes. And I would record music off the radio on one side of the dual or the cassette player. And then I would take it out, put it in the second deck, record over the music that I just recorded on the other side, because I don't know how it was like it happened as an accident. I said, wait a minute, if I can do this, I can create a radio show. All I'm doing is listening to 103.1 We Up and listening to that while I'm coming up, and I'm mimicking everything I learned or everything that I hear on the radio. So now it's, I made a radio station, W-H-O-O-T is, Woot, there it is, was hot at the time. I didn't even have a frequency, and I'm making these tapes, you're listening to W-H-O-O-T and this is SWV week, and I got a co-host and Slick Rick, and now we're going to a commercial, and I'm going back and forth and making these I'm making commercials and everything to mimic what I hear on the radio. Grandfather hears this, and unbeknownst to me, is I'm recording over his sermon tapes. I'm recording over the rehearsal tapes of the choirs at Oakwood College.
Who done came in here messing with? I know I recorded Reverend Turner on this tape. Who?
Look,
Tim, you been in here messing with my stuff?
No, sir. And he hears me on these tapes. So after he gives me a very well-deserved spanking whoop, I mean, changed my life. These tapes were only about 15 minutes on each side, maybe 15 minutes total. These are very short tapes. And so we went from Oakwood. He gets me some blank tapes. And now he's telling me, all right, this is what you use to do what you're doing. Not only that, he told me, because I was clipping out the top of the cassette tapes, you would have these little things at the top.
Yeah.
I'd break them out, and then I'd put tissue in them. That's the way that you would record over them. But then he said, they're gonna get caught in the tape player, this, that, and the other. Just get some tape. Stop putting tissue in it. You're gonna tear up the boombox, put tape over it. And I started making these tapes. Long story short, I'm in the 7th grade, living in the women's dorm at Wade Hall at my grandma. My grandmother was the dean of women at Wade Hall. 7th grade is a dream. So I'm living in this dorm, and I'm making these tapes. My grandmother found one of the tapes. She's going to change my life. She's going to send me to Jesus because I'm doing all the things wrong. So now she's taking my tapes. They're in her office, and Miss Marshawn, shout out to Miss Marshawn. Miss Marshawn found the tapes, and she's listening to them in the office while she's working. They've got the RAs and, girls walking around. Girl comes by my grandmother's apartment, knocks on the door, and she's like, yo, how much you want for this tape? She said, this is you? Like, you're Dean Miller's son. And I said, yeah. She said, this is you on the radio? Like, what radio station is this? W-H-O-T. Where's it at? I don't know. She bought the tape for $5. That's all it took for me.
Oh, wow.
You bought this tape for $5 that I made in my grandmother's room? Like, come on, man. Like, that's all it took. And I continued to make tapes, making radio. Long story short, I wound up going to We-Up one morning. I was going to Stone Middle School. Shout out to the Gators. It's now Campus 805. But going to school, I hop on a shuttle bus, go to the shuttle bus, go to We-Up, and Notorious Big, his album had just came out, Life After Death. And We-Up at the time was playing CDs. Like, it wasn't digital yet. They were loading up CDs to play on air on the radio. So I'm opening up the CD, and he's like, all right, you get to introduce the song. So I'm opening up the CD, and he's like, all right, you got 60 seconds. You need to take it out, put it in there, press play, introduce it. He's showing me how to move the faders up and everything. All right, y'all, here's Notorious B.I.G. and his Notorious B.I.G. Hypnotized. Shout out to the Stone Gators and everybody listening to art class on 103.1 We-Up, and push it up, and I was hooked since then.
Wow. What an incredible story, an incredible background story of how you just took what you had and made something.
There was no YouTube, like think about it. Like, even with what you're doing with podcasting and making music and all the things that the brand that you're creating, like, we're learning these things, but not necessarily traditionally, right. We just have a want. We want to do it. We want to see it, and we just make it happen. There's no excuse,
Right. So you said this was 7th grade and going up into probably around 96, 97.
It was 96 because
Life After Death dropped in, and
I want to say like 97 because eighth grade. I remember things just weird. Like, so 8th grade, Pac died September 13th, 1996. And the only reason I remember that because I'm a Pac fan, but I remember because I heard it on We-Up. It was 4 a.m. I had a boombox in my bed because I was recording pause tapes. I was recording songs. I would go to sleep, and I'm sleeping, and I wake up. Oh, that's the song, and I would record it. And they said, Pac just passed. He got shot. Woo. And to me, it was completely devastating because that's my favorite artist at the time, and I didn't know what that meant when your favorite artist dies.
Right?
What do you mean? Like, huh? He got shot last year and he survived, but he dies in September, and Big passes in March. This was only like 6 months apart.
Right.
This is all in my 8th grade year. And just making those tapes in 8th grade year, like, that's how I remember like dates, just by what album was out that year, like what grade was I in,
So at this time, had you already said, you know what, this is it, this is what I'm going to do? After I get out of middle school and high school, I'm gonna be a radio DJ. This is it. This
Something changed. I think I got discouraged somehow around the way because I didn't know anything about making demo tapes or making voice, demos and things like that. It's an actual name for it, and I'm so distracted that I can't remember the name. But it's basically your tape, your air check. So you make an air check. And I made one air check, took it to We Up. It didn't quite go through. I took another one to what was Hot 93 at the time. It didn't go through. And you would put these air checks together on a CD. You put your resume in a folder, and you take them to the station, and you hope for the best. So none of that worked out. So I wanted, and then around 97, I'm going from 8th grade to 9th grade, and I'm listening to Timbaland, and I'm working at a CD store, James Records and Tapes. And I meet this guy, Duran, who we're still friends with today, and he's producing music. I'm like, what is producing music? What is that? Like, you make music? Like what? And he's, yeah, and so he brings me a tape. I'm listening to his tape at work. I'm going, you made this? Like, you make beats? Like, what is, huh? How do you do that? I'm just now learning how to make radios and DJ tapes and mixtapes and everything, but you're making music? That's all it took. I went to a pawn shop. Again, there ain't no YouTube, no encyclopedia, no how-to, no Google, no nothing. I just know I need to go find somewhere that I can buy a keyboard. I don't know what a keyboard does. I need to buy a drum machine. I buy a drum machine, and I go home and I figure it out, and I start producing. And I started my first label in ninth grade, Class Act Records. And again, just meeting other guys that were there. It was, put it like this, it was Fruity Loops 1 when we were just starting out. Pro Tools was brand new. I mean, brand new to us. We had it in a computer class, and some guy in the computer class, shout out to Big City, they were recording. We're supposed to be, doing, computer assignments and whatnot. They're figuring out how to record in Pro Tools in high school. We're figuring this out, Pro Tools.
Wow.
And yeah, just learning production from there. And that was my start, 9th grade, starting to learn production, songwriting. So I'm, producing for other artists, and I'm learning that whole thing of how to upload music to MySpace at the time, and, all these different places, and started going into the world of production. So we did that for a few years, working with a few different labels. And, that's the time Slow Motion Sounds is coming out. And you've got, oh man, if I start naming names, I'm gonna forget somebody, but it's a lot of people coming out of Huntsville around that time. It's beautiful. I mean, and they are, to me, they're the Wu-Tangs, the Outcasts, they're the biggest artists in the world,
And I think I've probably said this on the podcast with Cody, but my introduction to Huntsville music was from a little white guy that I worked with at Opryland Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
He came to work one day talking about laxing priestess, big bodies with wheels, big bodies, and I'm like, "What's that?" He's like, "Man, you ain't ever heard of VSOP?"
Yeah,
I'm like,
style
I know what VSOP is, but I'm like, nah, it's a group. You're like, yeah, Ville Style of Pimping. This is what's up in Huntsville. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
so that was my introduction to Huntsville music, and that had to be 2001, 2, maybe.
Let me tell you, those guys were the biggest thing that I think, in Huntsville and around the world, because I didn't know this at the time, but they were touring, they were overseas. I'm seeing all these articles after I graduate, and not knowing, I'm like, how are these guys so big? They would come by the the record store that we would work at, and there's so many different artists that are coming by. Every artist that would come into town was coming by James Records and Tapes or TNL Records. And so you had all of the artists that were coming. This is when artists would come by and just check on you, like, hey, I got a new song, I got a new album coming out. They would buy consignment in the store of, hey, I want to, buy some space, here in your store to sell my CD. And if I sell X amount of units, can you give me, X amount of dollars back? And they would do in-store, they would do sign-ins, they would do performances. This is, when artists would connect and build a friendship and a connection with the media or with the radio station. They were doing black arts, festivals and all that and everything. So this is when and they were getting it out the trunk. People are talking about streams. These guys will post up at a Chevron with a trunk open and CDs, and they're selling CDs at $5-10 a pop on a spindle or in in a stack of CDs that they manufactured from CD Baby or Distro Kid or whatever it was at the time. And they were selling CDs. Think about this, for $5, $10 a CD. And I'm talking about going platinum, going gold, going, state to state in a Caprice or a Regal, and just driving up and down 65, 72 and selling music, merch, doing shows. They were killing it, them and so many other people coming out of Huntsville. And I mean, again, across, North Alabama, Southern Tennessee, South Alabama. We're not the only ones to do it, but it was a different hustle. It wasn't, if they'd have had the internet then on top of what they were doing state to state out the trunk, man, listen.
Yeah.
Man.
I already know.
Right.
I already know.
Straight up.
And so that takes us to probably high school or going after high school into college.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go to college? And if you did, what was your major? Was it, did it have anything that pertained to music or, what?
Nope. So what I did,
Wow.
So again, I didn't learn music. Everyone in my family went to college. Everyone went to a university. But at the time, I was really influenced by Timbaland, Jermaine Dupri, DJ Premier, even what Dre and, was doing, and Bad Boy and all the Hitmen. I thought, Puffy was a genius for what he was doing and how he was putting these guys together. And I'm looking at Organized Noise. I'm looking at LA and Babyface. And I'm like, yo, how are y'all? I want to do that, to create a label and music and get into that. And I didn't see at the time, the internet was there, but it was for mine, it was real slow. We were doing dial-up internet, and like you had to go to school and download one song while you're in class, while you're in school, because it took 7 hours to download one song. And I just didn't see a path to learn the things that I wanted to learn. I didn't know there was a Berkeley, College of Music. I didn't know there was a school in Nashville I could have went to. I didn't know there was a Full Sail. And I kind of knew they would exist, but it didn't seem achievable to me. It seemed like it was going to cost an arm and a leg, which it does. And it was really expensive. If there was a Maitland Conservatory then for me to go to, oh my God, like it would have.
Shout out to Mario Maitland.
Shout out to Mario Maitland, because if there was a Maitland Conservatory when we were coming up, it would have just. So I learned all by mistake, production, and started getting into after I graduated. Shout out to Jaguars, JL Jaguars, Jemison, the new Jemison Jaguars, but we are the original Jaguars.
Oh,
you feel some type of way about that, but I digress. Jaguars, nevertheless. And after graduating and then going into college, I went to the college school of hard knocks after that, because I was producing out of my house. I had already built my studio. We were doing okay, to put some food in the fridge and pay a couple bills and still keep some jobs on the side. And I'm producing for different artists, and I'm getting better, at production and mixing, and then I'm working with Duran. He's, we're putting together these mix houses and so on and so forth, and just working out of our bedrooms. And that to me, I just got stuck. Like I was a recluse. I didn't go anywhere. I literally just became a workhorse and just work. I'd go to work, come home, work on music, go to work, come home, work on music, putting out albums, doing performances, and so on and so forth. And, I just didn't go back to, college to learn any of that. I went for maybe a year or two after to just see what the broadcasting class was like. And then once I signed up and we're going through it, and it just seemed like it was, at the time, it's a much better program now, but at the time, it just seemed like it was really out of date for what we were doing at the time. I'm like, why are we... And not knowing the practical approach, because maybe there was a reason why they were showing us this way, because they're teachers and smarter than us. But I'm like, if I'm using, Pro Tools and, Cool Edit and all these other programs, and we're in digital studios, and why are we learning this? Like, catch me up to what I'm doing now. I don't want to learn the history of it. I know I need to, but I really need to apply what I'm doing now to keep me interested. Then we can go back and go to the history and all of that. So, yeah, that took me in from that back into podcasting, and then from podcasting to where we are now.
So let's start at the podcasting, because some people think that podcasting is fairly new, but
It's been
it's
around
been
forever.
it's been around forever. It probably started off as technically internet radio,
Mhm.
but like I said, it's been around forever.
Yeah.
So take us back to your first podcast.
So my first podcast, ironically, my podcast as of now is called In Tune with T Mill, and it started out. It may have been something else, but I do remember in starting out maybe 2009 ish. It was In Tune with T Mill, and there was a site called NowLive.com, and there was what we know as live streaming now. People have always been doing, and this was '07. I remember in '07 there were producers that I was watching make beats live, in studio, and it was Ustream, and there was all these different companies. So all this live streaming that we're doing now, people have been doing, for years. And I remember watching them do that, and that led me to NowLive.com, which was a internet radio broadcasting station. And from there, it went down and it turned into Blog Talk Radio, which we know with Blog Talk. So Now Live, the the pages and the things that we built, the dashboard and the stations we built on Now Live, completely migrated into Blog Talk. We didn't even know what was going on. It was just one day we logged in to Now Live, and it just everything on the page changed, and it was blog. I was like, wait, I'm on the wrong site. Hold on. So I'd go back to Now Live, and I'm logging. I was like, why does this thing keep going to Blog Talk? They changed the whole site, the whole dashboard. Everything was different, and that's when I started the podcast. And I didn't know I didn't know. I was thinking I was going to make a radio show. I didn't even know what the word podcast was, but the goal was to navigate. I wanted to. I didn't want to go to college. But I said, if I want to learn about publishing, people love to talk about themselves. People love to talk about what they're doing when they're on a radio show. And I had a guest, and it just dawned on me. I said, you know what? If I want to learn about music publishing, I'm going to call up a music publisher from Nashville, and I'm going to invite them on my radio show, and I'm going to ask them about music publishing. But I'm going to tell them it's a radio show. But what I'm really doing is I'm trying to learn about music publishing. Oh, music producer. I don't know anything about how to do split sheets and how to do, how to run a studio and things. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call up a music producer. I'm going to call up an actress if I'm trying to learn how to, everything that I was trying to learn how to do, I started doing through my radio show. And I would bring on DJs, producers, musicians, and I would interview them, but I'm really taking notes and I'm interviewing them for myself. And it's pretty selfish, but that's how it started out. And then I'll never forget one guest, she said, Tim, you really got a thing for this. Like you really like, what are you doing with your life? Where is this going? Because at the time I'm only doing it so I can get answers to run my record label at the time.
Wow.
That's the only reason I'm doing the radio show. And she said, you really need to do something with this. And people would send me emails or DMs at the time, texts, and hey, I really appreciate that interview, man. I've never had an interview like that. No one's ever taken the time to introduce me like that. No one's ever, you ask questions that nobody's ever asked me before. And I said, well, I don't want to waste their time. Like all that stuff they can find on your website, or I saw you did 10 other interviews this year. Why am I going to ask you the same questions,
Right.
that everybody else asked you? So that became, again, I just recognized that I had a knack for it, and people just give me that positive reinforcement. And then a company out of New York, Hot Candy Magazine, shout out to Hot Candy Magazine. They hit me up to do some interviews for them. And at the time, this was when eye candy magazines were going crazy. And they hit me up and said, hey, we see what you're doing with the radio show, what you're doing with your journalism and whatnot. Would you like a position, being one of our staff writers? I came out and did that. And that's when I started learning. There was a publicist there at Hot Candy, and they kind of taught me how to, shout out to Shani. Shani, really in an indirect way, she showed me how to stilettos and sounds. Shout out to stilettos and sounds. Shani taught me how to book artists, how to interview, how just some of the mechanics that I already had, but she showed me how to really correct them. And she said, Tim, you just got a knack for this. and you're already booking. It's just, I'm booking artists. I'm booking Nicolay at the time. You know, like Nicolay's on, you know, with Foreign Exchange with
Change.
Fonte, and
Yeah.
you know, it's just it's as easy as a DM. You know, I'm just and I'm treating it. I'm sending him an email as if I'm the PR. You know, hey Nicolay, good afternoon. We would like to invite you to this, you know, podcast. Da, 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 da. And I've got this whole email as I'm representing myself as a PR firm. I'm not, but I'm representing myself like that, and that, you know, opened a lot of doors. So once she and so many others gave me that positive reinforcement, say, look, you can do this. This is something great. And it just became from 2010 till now. And we just grew so much with the podcast from then, just by positive reinforcement and people. I didn't know I was doing a good job. And just that's why, I mean, it's important. You tell people that they're doing a good job. Tell people when they're doing right. Tell people when they need to improve. Don't let somebody, if you see them making a mistake, like don't let them make the mistake. Like, hey, look, you know, you might want to change this next time you do it. Don't let people just out there, you know, making mistakes and making the same mistake that you did, and you can go, oh yeah, you gotta, you know, make that same mistake that I did.
I'm
know,
gonna let you fall on your face.
like
first.
nah, like you know, help them out, man. So shout out to everyone that does positive reinforcement.
Man, yes, shout out to everybody that gives you that pat on the back and also tells you, hey, bro, you need to tighten up.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to those people, man. And, um, you know, we go from your podcast and then we go to Paradox East. And, you know, what's the science behind the Paradox East? And, you
Yeah.
know, give us a little detail of how that came about.
So Paradox East originally, so Paradox East Radio, as people know it now, started out as Paradox East, and it's a division of, you know, Paradox East Radio is a division of Paradox East. And at the time, you know, I'm trying to figure out, now this is maybe 2012, maybe. I'm doing the podcast. I'm creating this buzz. Now we're creating networks. Shout out to Vision Emotions Network. We're creating a podcast network. We're doing panels, and we're becoming a media company, and everybody's creating their own media companies at this time. So I go, okay, how do I make this a business? How do I make this a viable thing that I can leave my job and create something for my kids? How do I do this? And I'm talking with Shawnee. I'm talking with Marty Torres. I'm talking with Gary Robinson. I'm talking with all these different people at the time, Joseph Marshall, of how I can make this a company. You know, how do I make a broadcasting company? How do I make a media company? Because I'm doing media at the time. High Candy Magazine became one of the biggest magazines online at the time for eye candy, and all the girls were like, you don't ask the same questions as these other magazines. You're not interested in my sex life. You're not interested in, you know, who I dated. You know, it became a real conversation. So it came from Paradox East at the time, came from me thinking, what do I create? Like, how do I make this? What company am I trying to do? You know, and I'm trying to create something like a LA Babyface and a media company like a Rock Nation and all these different things. And I remember, shout out to Deron, he put me on a book called the D.O.U.G.H. And at this time, I'm in the gym all the time. I'm trying to meditate. I'm trying to like just find different ways to better myself, my psyche, my mental, everything. And there's one of the passages in there mentions that you know, the Tao is just all it is just a paradoxical way of thinking to Western intellect. So whatever we think about one way, they think about it a different way. So you got, you know, the yin and yang. So there's always a paradox to whatever it is that you're thinking. And he said it's just a paradoxical way of thinking to Western intellect. So I said it's a way of Eastern thinking. I started getting into Eastern philosophy, and I started thinking about, you know, all the, you know, again, just studying the Tao, studying Bruce Lee and all his, you know, philosophies and everything like that, being water, and it all made sense to me. And at the end of the day, I said, I want to think a different way. I want people to think a different way. I want to do everything a different way. I don't want to look at the headline. I want to look at it a different way. You know, I want to, Devil's Advocates, oddly enough, one of my favorite movies, but the sometimes, you know, just looking at things and seeing things and thinking about things, it doesn't have to be for what we see at the surface. Like, what does this really mean? What are we really saying? So I wanted to think different. I wanted people to think different. And the motto of In Tune with T-Mail at the time and still is changing the status quo one voice at a time. That's the
Mm.
whole purpose of In Tune with T Mill. And I said, we're thinking different. We want to put out different music, and we don't want it to be churchy, or we don't want it to be obvious, but we want you to think different. We want you to, have a high vibration. We don't want to keep putting out death and putting out all that. We want to think different. And that's where Paradox East came from. And so a different way of thinking, progressing and preserving the culture became the mission. And I said, how do I do that through media? So Paradox East became a multimedia company to progress, preserve the culture, through entertainment, artist development, and more than just a label. We wanted to evolve from just being a music label, putting out music, and became Paradox East. The radio part of it came from, I would have artists come on the show on a Blog Talk, and we would just play songs. Blog Talk allowed you to play music, and it was terrible. The sound was garbage because it sounded like you were playing music underwater. I'm like, all this technology and this songs, but people loved it because they like tuning in and go, who is this artist? Who is this artist? So I would have artists send me their music and I would play it as a radio show. I'm getting back into the radio thing. And I said, man, these artists are better than, if not just equal to, some of these artists I'm hearing on the radio. These artists are phenomenal. I mean, they're sending me music and I'm going, why aren't you on, World Star Hip Hop or, allhiphop.com? Like you're dope, R&B, country, rock. And by the fact that I wasn't just sticking to one genre, I had jazz artists coming on the show. I had, hip hop, of course, rock and roll, and all these different artists. The love that I received from those indie artists, where artists would send me drops without me asking them to. They would send me DJ packs. They would send me the instrumentals. They would say, hey, I'm going to send you my music. Here's the clean version, dirty version, instrumental. Here's the DJ intro. Here's the one without the DJ intro. Tell me the call letters. And, they would do my drops and everything. And they would send all of this, their press kits, everything, from no matter where they were in the world. And the love that I got from the artists, and then the reaction from the people when I interviewed and played those artists, gave me all the confidence I needed to make Paradox East Radio. I said, there is no indie radio station I know of I know there's a lot of them out there. They just weren't doing what I wanted to do. And I wanted to blend. It was either R&B, indie pop, or indie rock, or indie this. And I don't want to do just one genre. I want to do all genres. And that's where Paradox East Radio came from.
Man, and I know when we originally booked, you wanted to bring your crew with you.
You
wanted
man.
to bring
Marcus Sims, JQ, yeah.
And how did you meet those people coming up in your journey? And how did your lives intersect into what you're doing now?
Oh, so Marcus Sims, when I moved to Huntsville, we moved back and forth to Huntsville. So around, I'd have to say probably high school, the time we came back and I'm going to high school, I was listening to 90.9 WJAB. And I'm hearing this voice and I'm going, man, this is a dope station. I mean, they're playing smooth jazz, cool vocals on the campus of Alabama A&M. And I'm hearing this voice and I'm just taking to it. I'm tuning into his show every afternoon. This is from high school all the way through after high school. And then I'm getting older. So probably and I have to ask him, because now when I think about it, I don't know where we actually met. So it may have been the block party, the first block party, and just we would do these ciphers at the Con Society. We would have these late night ciphers. My kids are there. We're in there till 3, 4 in the morning, rapping, dancing, DJs and everything. So I probably met Marcus at one of the ciphers. And I told him, I said, dude, I've been listening to you for like 10 years on WJAB, and now I'm meeting you. And to me, he's an icon. I'm like, dude, you're a superstar. Like, I wanted to be in radio, and you're on the radio, and I've been listening to you for 10 plus years. And now I get to meet you, and you're just as cool in real life as you are. And he's been a comrade, just a partner in everything that I'm doing, everything that I'm championing with artists and entertainment. Marcus believes the exact same thing. JQ, oh my goodness, JQ is a phenom. JQ is a whole vibe. They don't, and I say this in the most respect, I think they made JQ on another planet. Like, I don't think she's from here. She's just, there's no this woman. So to answer the question, the JQ I met through one of the artists that I was working with, Eric Echoes. Eric Echoes, he came to me for he was one of our first artists that we signed. Well, not signed, but one of the first artists we started working with at Paradox East as development, as PR, and so on and so forth. You know, word of mouth is a great thing because Eric Echoes, he says, hey man, I got somebody that I work with, my trainer, my best friend, JQ, I think she needs a little help with her PR and everything. And she sees what I'm doing and she asks who's helping me do it. I told her it's you. So he introduces me to JQ. JQ at this time, she has a gym, shout out to Fitness Defied. She's got all these modeling, opportunities and things. She's like all over the place. She's got a whole company branding, Sunshine Enterprises. And she said, T-Mill, and we've been working together tight ever since then. And we sat down, coffee shop. She said, I just want you to do for me what Eric Echoes does. She said, I need to break out of this, this shell that everybody thinks that I'm just a fitness girl. Like they keep putting me in this box. I want to become a media company. I want to be looked at as a businesswoman. And so she was our second person that we started working with at Paradox East. And through her branding and development and trying to get her in different magazines, get her different looks, get her different just media exposure and press and branding her and just getting her out there. I'm like, JQ, you already got it. You don't need me. Like she is. And even at the time, she was huge and still is. Like she is a whole just phenomenal woman, businesswoman, talented and everything. I'm like, you don't need me, but if you think I can do something. And she would always tell me, no, T-Mill, I wouldn't be here in some of these rooms and some of these conversations and some of these opportunities without Paradox East. And so once I started doing the podcast at the Maitland Conservatory, Jew Boy, so Jew Boy Films, he does a lot of videos and whatnot, and they were doing Training Tuesdays. They were teaching. These are all the professional photographers in Huntsville that are getting together and teaching other photographers how to shoot, how to film. And they would meet up at a location, tell everybody, bring whatever camera you have. And Jude Boy would get everybody together and he would tell them, come to wherever we are, and they would teach everybody how to shoot. One of the locations they did was at the Maitland Conservatory. At the time, I'm trying to learn photography. So I get there and I'm looking around like, what is this place? And, it's Maitland Conservatory. It's an old dentist's office, but they made it a music education school. I'm like, this looked like Full Sail. Like they got all these rooms. They got it in my mind. It looked like Full Sail. Full Sail is a whole different thing. But they're doing this class and I'm like, Mario, I meet Mario Maitland for the first time. And he tells me he created this music school because he, again, graduated from, music school. He's doing music all over the world. He's a, classically trained pianist, graduates from Alabama A&M and doesn't see the opportunity that I was looking for in school where I could learn music production or what, when you learn piano and drums and violin, where do you go after that? Probably church. Right. Because there's no lane for you to go to. You either end up in church or playing with a band on the weekends in these smoky clubs that pay you in cash at the end of the night. And he said, I don't see a place to teach you what to do with those gifts. So he created that. Long story short, I said, I got to do a podcast. I got to interview you. Did the podcast there. And people were, this is when everybody started going live on Facebook and doing all this. And
which we're live on Facebook right now.
Yeah, shout out to everybody live on Facebook. Everybody's live and going live on Facebook. And I'm totally nervous because everyone's going live and I'm a radio guy. That's the reason why I'm on the radio is because I'm behind the mic. I'm not in front of a camera. I'm shy. Like I don't do it, And we do the podcast, do it with Mario. Mario goes, man, I love what you're doing. I want to, partner with you and see how I can support what it is that you're doing with this podcast and Paradox East, man. And, I had JQ there, Marcus Sims there, and that feeling, that vibe and that everything of all three of us being together as a powerhouse. And shout out to Vonda. Vonda was there in the beginning as well. He saw something in all of us and we've been sticking together ever since. JQ, Marcus Sims. Marcus Sims is, a powerhouse on the media circuit, and JQ is becoming a media serial entrepreneur. She is killing it. So yeah, shout out to them, man.
And that leads us to 94.1 down in Huntsville. Help me remember the call letters there.
WHRP.
And you're a on-air personality, and you also promotions director.
Yeah.
So what led you to that, particular role?
So that role, so they found me, and
Well,
I don't
it's
know
good
how.
to be sought after.
Yeah. So 2020 pandemic, I'm doing Paradox East Radio. We've launched Paradox East Radio now. It's a fully licensed, registered radio station based out of Huntsville, Alabama, playing the best variety of indie music and your most influential artists of all time. And we're doing this. And I'm doing these shows. I'm doing a late, I want to say a weekly show. It may have been every night. I'm doing these shows online on, YouTube and Facebook, and I'm streaming on all these different channels, and I'm just playing indie music. I'm just having conversations with people, playing indie music, interviewing artists. Now, I have a bad habit of if I'm hosting an event and I see you walk in the door while I'm on stage, yeah, yo, shout out the door. What's happening, man? You may not want everybody to know that you're there, or you see these cameras and you're like, man, he gonna really tell everybody I'm here? Like, what? Some people don't like that, and I have a bad habit. I've tried to stop. I'm getting better, but I have a really bad habit because people have pulled me to the side where they're like, don't, or they know that I do that. And so they'll come in the other way just so if T-Mill's on stage and he see me, I don't do it to everybody, because if I shout you out, it's because I really, really rock with you, or somebody that I really look up to, but I can't help it when I'm hosting an event. And I do it in a way where it doesn't get in the way of the event, but I do it nevertheless. So I'm doing my show and I see Tony Terrell come in the chat room. I'm like, oh snap, Tony Terrell in the chat room, what's happening? And immediately, how you can see somebody when they come in and then they leave? So I saw her come in and then she was gone. I was like, oh, I just did that thing again where I'm shouting people out that don't want to know. Unbeknownst to me, she was watching my podcast. She calls me up and she goes, hey, I see what you're doing. I like what you're doing. What are you doing with it? I said, well, this is what I'm doing with Paradox East Radio, and I'm building this and I'm doing this. And she said, okay, I'm looking for a co-host. I said, you're looking for a co-host? Like, you're Tony Terrell. Like, man, you out here in these streets, Tom Joyner, and you've been, legend, like California all the way to Huntsville. Like, you've been holding it down 15 years in Huntsville. Like, you're the GOAT around here. You're looking for a co-host? That completely scared me. I'm like, whoa. She said, I'm looking for a co-host, and, I'm thinking about doing a morning show. I said, okay. And we scheduled some demos and some training and whatnot. It was between me and I believe two other people. I don't know who those two other people are to this day. I kind of want to know, but I'm glad I don't know. But we do this and we're building this idea. She says, not only is this something new for me, she said, because she's returning back to mornings, because she's done mornings before, but at the time there had never been a local morning show on, because before our morning show was Tom Joyner. That was the morning show, forever on WHRP. So she said, this is going to be a real risky thing because, most morning shows are all syndicated.
Right.
They're, the Steve Harvey morning show, the Tom Joyner morning show, the Ricky Smiley morning show, all of them, all the shows that we hear online or in the radio are all syndicated. So she said, we're taking a big risk with this. And I'm going, I don't know if I'm the guy you want for this thing. I have no idea how to do traditional radio. I've been doing this, making it up on my own, but I don't know this world. I don't know how to do any of this. So we get through the training, and man, I have to tell you, like, and she knows this. I've told her this, and I'll tell everybody all the time. Look, I got thick skin when it comes to media, broadcasting. Most of my success has always been, most of my biggest success has been working with women, specifically Black women. Most of my success has come from the relationships, and some of the biggest things that I've done, milestones and things like that, have been working with Black women. And she is the Yala Yande GOAT. I'm talking about professional. There's nobody like her in this industry. And I knew that. I'm like, I'm getting trained by, the best in radio right now. Let me take this, let me learn. And I said, look, give it to me. Like, don't hold back. Like, I play football, I play basketball, I play sports. I got a wife, I got kids. You're not gonna hurt my feelings telling me I'm doing something wrong or whatnot. So give it to me. Let me know when I'm doing it right. I said, put me through the school of broadcasting with Tony Terrell, professional radio. And we did it, So we came up with this demo, came up with this whole show, came up with this whole thing. And her purpose was, or is, that she wanted to make something local for the Tennessee Valley, something that we can talk about, local businesses where we can get in tune with what's going on in and around the city, local resources, and just to be that beacon for the city, in the surrounding areas, because we have local shows, but they're either too disconnected or they're not really informing the community enough, because there's not a whole lot of time on radio. Radio's not, people think that we're just sitting there and like we got all the time in the world, and like it's
somebody bring me my coffee.
It's hard. It is not, what we do, what me and you do, what we do, everybody that's on these mics and engineers, and it is not easy. So the fact that she was, taking me under her wing, she said, I just want to do something for the community. She said, this is what I've been doing for a while. I want to do this. And, we came on, and now we're, a year and a half, almost 2 years in, on the morning show, Tony with T-Mill in the morning.
And how has that helped your career as far as just being a personality, or has it gave you more insight of how further you can take this?
Oh, tremendously. Absolutely. I mean, it reaffirmed everything that I believed about Huntsville, that Huntsville is the coolest place in the world. I won't say the most livable place in the world. Like, we got this number one thing. It is great and it is growing, but there's so much to celebrate about Huntsville. And now we have the ability to control our narrative when it comes to it, because we don't have enough representation on the radio to speak for Black and brown people. We don't have that. There's radio shows that are on across the world that can drive whatever narrative that they want or tell the story that they want to tell. But where do we go to hear that story? Where do we go to hear that perspective? And so by her doing that and creating that, it gave me and people listening, we're doing our segments. We have a segment called What's Good in the Neighborhood, where we're literally every day, we're talking about just good news that's happening. There's already enough bad news. You turn it on, the first 10 minutes of the newscast is going to be who got murdered, who died, who's missing, what natural disaster is happening. It's like, yes, we get it. Like, it's a part of life, but can we get some good news? Like, and good news more than just somebody's dog got found. That is good news. But like, we want people to we want to get people encouraged to share good news in their life. You hear all this bad news. This is your chance for you to talk to the radio station and tell us what's happening good in your life. Then we talk about local businesses. We talk about, every week we highlight a local business. Then we do the Alabama Black History Minute, where we're digging and finding facts about all of the Black history of Alabama. And I mean, stuff that you never, ever would have known. No one knew that, Redstone Arsenal, it was full of Black people before they moved to Arsenal Land. That was a whole Black population there. You talk about the creator of Black Wall Street. He's born in Huntsville. These are things that people were telling us, but we're putting those facts out there, and then of course we do fun things. We do concert giveaways. We do things in the community. We're doing prizes and things like that. But it really helped me know that people have been wanting this. They want local radio. They want to wake up in the morning and we're their guide, so to speak, for the start of their day. We tell them what's going on in the world. Of course, the trending topics. We keep it ratchet and righteous. We give you some ratchet stuff to, talk about at work. Man, you hear so-and-so sleeping with so-and-so and they got 3 babies together now. And they were talking about, we give you the gossip, but then we also tell you, hey, this is what happened at the city council meeting last night. This is what's going on Thursday. The reason why y'all need to be there. And not only that, we're going to bring on the city councilman to talk about it. We're going to talk about this brand new school, this technology school that just opened up, and that are looking for students to come and learn technology and engineering and math and all this. We can do that, to talk to, we can control the narrative, we can be that voice in the community through this radio station. And it just taught me that how much power media has. What you and I are doing here, putting out vibrations of information. Like, you're giving people a guest, you're giving people solutions every episode. Like, no one can say, there's no excuse when they watch your episodes and they watch Donuts with Doe, and they're like, I don't know anybody in Nashville that does da, 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 da. Did you watch Donuts with Doe? Because he just gave you 4 people that you need to connect with. You know what I mean? Exactly. He gave you their social media. What do you mean you can't contact them? Or, I didn't know this or that. Once they watch your episodes, there is no excuse. I get it if you don't know. But once you watch the episode, it just shows me the power that we have, and also the power that we waste. You know what I mean? Because we can talk a whole lot about nothing, sometimes. So it shows us the power that we do have and the power that we waste, and what we can do. But it's just a good feeling, man, seeing people in the community, like, we'll just walk wherever we're going and just, hey, T-Mill, what's happening? What's going on? Oh, man, I listen to y'all every morning. Oh, man, I love what you guys are doing. Great, Black businesses, and, this, and you guys are talking about this issue, or you interviewed so-and-so, and the Alabama, the confirmation from the people. Once again, when people give you that feedback to let you know you're doing something good, it counts. Please tell people when they're doing a good job, because it's what we do it for.
And so what's next for T-Mill, Paradox East, and T-Mill and
Tony with T-Mill in the morning? Yeah.
What's next? What can we look forward to if we come to Alabama? We turn on the radio. What are we gonna hear next from T-Mill?
So the cool thing is you can turn it on wherever you're at. You can be online at WHRPFM.com. You can tune into the morning show. You can, catch us on Alexa. Hey, Alexa, play 94.1 WH. That might have just messed up somebody's Alexa. So Alexa just popped on somebody's thing. But you can listen to us online, 6 to 10 a.m. Tony with T-Mill in the morning. And then also with Paradox East Radio, man, Paradox East Radio is going to, there are so many events that are happening in Huntsville. And what we're doing now at Paradox East Radio, we're looking for artists from all genres of music to send us their music. You go to paradoxeast.org or info@paradoxeast.org, music@paradoxeast.org to send us your music, because we're playing your music. Now, depending on you and how your publishing situation is set up, you can go and check those reports to see that we're playing your music, how often we play your music.
Hold on, I'm going to look at the camera real quick. Now, don't say we ain't gave you opportunity. All my artist friends out there that, man, how can I get on the radio? Here's your opportunity. You have a licensed radio station out of Huntsville that's going to play your music. Yep. All you got to do is put forth that first effort. Send them your music. And be professional about it. Send your bio. Send, your zip files, or however you, share your bulk images and everything. Make sure you have it all correct and in order and things of that nature.
Absolutely.
But here's another opportunity. You can tell them again.
Yes, again, you hit us up, and maybe you're not an artist, maybe you're an entrepreneur and you want to do an interview. You're working on your press and you're getting your press list together and your press roll and everything like that. But you hit us up, info@paradoxeast.org or music@paradoxeast.org. We're still playing No More Free Sauce, because it's a great song. So if Doe want to hit us up at any time and say, hey man, I want to get my report. How many times have you played my song? How many times have you played? And here's the thing, my brain is just going, because we have one of your latest songs from last year, either last year or it seems like the year before last, but it was a recent song that you had. We have that one playing, but No More Free Sauce is still playing more than the latest song that you had. I mean, because it's still a bop, man. Like,
yes, sir.
When did you release that song?
That was in 2018. So.
It still go. I'm telling you, it's still in the playlist. It's still in the rotation, and you can ask us at any time for your reports. We have to report to BMIs, ASCAP, CSAC. They're all in Nashville. They're all in the same area. Like, I used to think that they were like in California somewhere, but you can approach them. And they right downtown on Music Row. Like, come on, man. So we pay, our thing. But so Paradox East Radio is what I'm most excited about. Not only the fact that we're playing music, we're playing artists, though there's people tuning in from Bolivia listening to Paradox East Radio. There's people tuning in from Belgium, the Netherlands, Japan, The UK is rocking with Paradox East Radio heavy. We can go into our analytics and pull where in London that they're listening from, where in Belgium that they're listening from, where in Tokyo that they're listening from, and start to dig in. And now if we really want to dial in, we can say this many people tuned in to hear No More Free Sauce. These are where they were listening to that song. They were listening here, there, and there. And let's just say that there were 30 people listening in Venezuela that were listening that listened to the whole song. Because we can see how long they were listening to it. When did they tune out? You know, did they listen to it for 30 seconds, 3 seconds? Let's say that there were 30 people in Venezuela listening to that song on a Wednesday and listen to the whole song. Doesn't seem like a big deal, right? On the surface, but that's 30 people in Venezuela that were listening to your whole song. You don't think it's worth the time to like try to really tap in and say, hey, who are those 30 people?
All right.
Do I need to make a trip to, if 30 people in Venezuela are listening to D.O.U.G.H, don't you think that D.O.U.G.H can get a concert
in Venezuela?
All he got to do is say, who are y'all? Like, let me know. I'll pull up. So that's what we're doing at Paradox East Radio.
Pull up.
You know what I mean? Because we're so tied up in who's listening around the city, and
Poppy D.O.U.G.H will show up.
Poppy D.O.U.G.H. Shout out to Poppy D.O.U.G.H. Listen, he is again, we're doing these live streams. We're doing Mixed Madness where you can so Paradox East Radio is not just audio. You know, we're doing video as well. So when we're doing Mixed Madness at the camp, and it's a DJ cipher, you know. If you guys are familiar with you know, the basement joints and the mixed joints that go on in Nashville, you know, again, you got 3-4 DJs or 2 DJs up and just going at it, you know what I mean, and just playing music all night. And there's no host, there's no dancing. I mean, there's a lot of dancing, but there's no performing artists. It's just DJs. Mixed Madness is an event about the DJs. They are the headliners. They are the performers.
Shout out to DJ A-Twist.
Yeah.
Am I saying that right?
Yep, DJ A-Twist. You know,
Yeah,
shout out to DJ A-Twist, DJ your boy, DJ. If I start naming all the DJ, I'm gonna forget somebody. Shout out to the DJ Cartel. Shout out to Nothing But Hits DJs. Shout out to all the DJ coalitions. And this event is about DJs. So Paradox East Radio, we do audio, you know, broadcasting 24/7. We also do video broadcasting, and we do live events, live streaming, and whatnot. And so now we're getting into our third quarter of the year. So now we're rebuilding our playlists because we're going through, and a lot of the music we started with in the first couple of years it's got a little dated, and we've got technology that we're building, and we're switching servers. We're getting, you know, bigger and better equipment. So you will be hearing more of the music, but it's paradoxeast.org. It's got the information where you can book your interview if you're a business. It's got the information if you want to get your music played on the air. It's got your, and again, submission does not equal airplay, you know, because again, we have to figure out, does this
gotta
song
filter out the trash?
You know, or not even that. It's just, you know,
I'm gonna call it what it is.
Where it goes, you know, maybe it doesn't belong on this station, maybe it fits here, or maybe you just didn't mix it right. You know, maybe
we got to filter out the trash.
Okay. And we play all genres. I mean, we play rock and roll, we play country, we play jazz, but we do it in a way where it makes sense, you know. Gotcha. So we do these events, and you can always tune in to, we have DJs going live. DJ Blue goes live on Sundays. You got DJ Carl. So you can listen to DJ Carl live from the skating rink on Paradox East Radio. You can be in Nashville or in Murfreesboro Sunday night listening to the skate mix of DJ Carl, you know what I'm saying, every Sunday night on paradoxeast.org. You can listen to him live. DJ Danye West every Wednesday and Thursday. Danye West is doing a whole homecoming tour. So on Paradox East Radio right now, DJ Danye West is at Black Cigar Lounge, or he's on the Yard. And wherever the DJs go, they can come up to Nashville. And they can say, hey, or they can come up to Murfreesboro and say, hey, we're at, you know, D.O.U.G.H, or let's say D.O.U.G.H performing live at, what's one of your favorite spots to perform at?
Man, used to be the Cobra in Nashville, or maybe so many venues are closed.
Let's say
down.
the Cobra. Let's say the next performance that D.O.U.G.H is doing at the Cobra in Nashville, people in Huntsville, we can set it up to where, again, you have it going live. People can hear the audience. They can hear you. They can hear the band. They can hear everything is mic'd, sounding great, sounding good. And they can watch it because we can pull up, do the video, do the audio, do the live stream, or just have the stream going. Do you know how it feels to be on the road and you're listening to a live event in your hometown? Like, we're in Atlanta a couple weeks ago listening to a festival that's happening in Huntsville. Live event. Now we're at was it Chips? We're somewhere in the trap, like somewhere we don't need to be at, but they have some dope wings. And
it's always good food in the most dangerous places.
It always is. You just have to, like, if the streets are dirty, like, that's where the best food is going to be at. Like, there's no street lights on this road. So we're there and we're sitting outside. I'm playing the music in the car and people are listening to it. And one guy walked by and he's going, "Hey man, what are you listening to?" Because he hears all the crowd. Yeah, we live, coming up next to the stage. And he's like, "What are you listening to?" And I'm like, "I'm listening to Phantom Fest happening in Huntsville." He said, "Phantom Fest? Is that over there off of Peachtree?" No. This is in Huntsville. This is a live event. And he hears the artist talking back to the crowd in the interaction. And he's going, and then it's bumping because DJ Carl's got the sound going. He got the sub. He got it mixed right. You got the right engineer on the boards to bring that live. When's the last time you heard a live event on the radio?
It's been a minute.
You know what I mean? And not only a live event, but a live event that you knew the artist, musician, that you knew the artist personally. We got to start championing ourselves, and that's what Paradox East Radio is here for. We love the mainstream. We love some of the most influential artists of our time, but I want to hear D.O.U.G.H on stage with an 8-piece band going in on a stage. Like, that's what I want to hear when I'm riding in Huntsville, or like, that's what I want to hear. When you can hear people, and then people in North Carolina or wherever they're at, they're listening to this. And they're going, "Where is this?" Huntsville. Now we get to brag, and we get to say, "This ain't in New York. This ain't in Atlanta. This ain't in LA. This ain't in Miami. This ain't in Houston. This is happening in Huntsville," and we're doing this with, shout out to the camp. The camp is giving us opportunities to go live, where we're just, they're piping us the sound. They're giving us all the sound. We're doing the video. So we're doing live events. We did Mardi Gras last year. The camp did Mardi Gras and we live streamed it.
Okay.
So now people are at home in New Orleans and they're like, "This is happening in Huntsville?" And they're listening to their favorite artists because the artists that are up here performing from Nashville, I'm telling them, "Hey, you folk can tune in and watch and listen to this on Paradox East Radio." And they're going, "Man, are you serious? Like, dope, like camera angles and everything. You got Rockin' Dope C. You got, these second line bands and everything." And they're going, "My folks down, like, I'm up here in Huntsville, and my folks down in New Orleans and across the world can watch this on Paradox East Radio."
Man, that's awesome, man. That's an awesome platform. And, I can't wait to come back to Huntsville and tap back in. And
for sure, you always got a home and a mic, bro.
And fellowship.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I love coming out here. Like, I don't mind coming out. I don't mind pulling up. This is what we have to do more of, artists. Y'all act like Murfreesboro and Nashville and Houston is like a country away, like 10 hours. Like, man, pull up. Well, Houston is about 10 hours, but y'all act like some of these places in Franklin and Florence and all these places are so far apart. Man, get in the car, put some gas in the car, get a good playlist, and pull up to your neighbors around the city. Those pull up all the time in Huntsville. I've seen him at different events, and again, we try to roll out the red carpet, and again, you hear people talking about checking in and all this other stuff. All it is about, if you have a guest or someone, one of your friends and your neighbors that's in your city, show them a good time. Like, "Hey, you drove all this way to come to our city to come kick it," or this, that, and that. We're going to do the same thing when we come to your city. We're going to spend, I hit you up this morning. I'm like, "Yo, where's a breakfast spot at?" You know what I mean? Because I want to know from him, like, where to go, where to eat, and so on and so forth. When I go to the city, I come to breakfast. I don't want to go to no chain restaurant. When I come to his city, like, I want to go to a mom and pop spot. I want to go to somewhere local. I can go to IHOP anywhere. I can go to Waffle House anywhere. I can go to at home. I want to go to a spot that's only like that I can get in Murfreesboro. If I'm hanging out tonight, if I was here tonight, I would ask him, "Hey man, where's the spot to go get some good craft beer, and what's the spot to get some really good live music?" Because that's where that's what I do. And I don't want to go to the popular spot, like where it's the glitzy glam and I want to go to the spot that really feels like home, that's got really good music, really good craft beer, really great bartenders, really great folks in the kitchen. And there's a spot like that everywhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I want to be able to say every time I come to Murfreesboro, this is where I go, you know what I mean, to kick it because Do told me to go there. You know what I mean? Then I got to find out where are the best wings here. I don't want you to put nobody on the spot, but we'll talk about that off mic.
Yeah. Man, before we get out of here, T-Mill, man, I got this thing that I do called Doe's Half a Dozen.
Okay.
And we don't have a sponsor just yet, but speaking of hometown and, you know, coming to deal with the locals, we have this delicious dozen of donuts from Donut Country here.
Yeah.
Which is a local favorite. And half a dozen is really just speaks to a half a dozen of a category that I select.
Okay.
So like it might be give me your top 6 basketball players of all time.
Here we go with this.
So this is what I want to do.
Let's go.
Your top 6, or it doesn't have to be your top 6, but your most influential people from Huntsville.
6 of the most influential people in Huntsville in my life. I like that question. I like that. And side note, y'all know somebody that's got their own donut company. Y'all know somebody that has their own donut. You know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that owns their own donut company, and they're looking for a place like this to sponsor. Holler at them and be like, I got the perfect place for you to sponsor. I got I know them. I'm watching. You're watching it right now. So holler at them.
Yes.
6 most influential people in my life, man, in Huntsville. So I would say definitely, and this is no particular order. I would definitely say Cody Gopher.
Cody, everybody big homie.
My mother, for sure. I'm trying to think. Influential. Boom, 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 boom. Influential people. Mario Maitland, for sure.
It's 3. Shout out to Mario Maitland again.
Ding, 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 trying to think because it's so many.
Now let me quit before I get sued.
Right, somebody pick it up. Influential people in Huntsville. Matt Wake.
Well, I got T-Mill to stop talking, y'all.
Man, right? You got to ask hard questions. And
that's 4. Got 2 more. Got to make them count.
2 more. 2 more?
Yes, sir.
Hunley Batts and Kenny Anderson.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you give us some background of the people that you spoke of? You already talked about Cody. He's been on the podcast. You mentioned Mario Maitland and your mother.
Yeah.
But the other 3 gentlemen that you named, can
you give us Matt Wake is a writer for AL.com. And there's so many people that Matt Wake writes about Huntsville and some of the history of Huntsville, the music scene in particular in Huntsville, in a way that I think is it's just magical. Like if you want to be proud of, he just has again. So to me, him and Cody Gopher, like you need to put them in a room together and just talk about the history of music in Huntsville. And Matt Wake has a very great way to. I've never seen nobody. He's probably a journalist, just like people are supposed to be a journalist, like me. If I'm covering a story or a concert, I could be there with Matt the whole time at a concert. Never seen him write anything. He might jot a little something down here. But when he does the article about the event, there's all these nuances. And I'm going, how do you remember that? Like, I might have had a beer or 2, but how do you remember all these nuances about, he'll write this article about the event that I was standing right next to him. And I'm like, how did you see? We were watching the same event, but you caught all those nuances and you wrote about it. I think that's a gift. for sure. Kenny Anderson, when I moved to Huntsville, Kenny Anderson is another one of my radio heroes where when we moved to Huntsville, I was listening to W.O.C.G, which is now W.J.O.U. 90.1 FM. It's a Christian radio station on the campus of Oakwood University. So it's, Christian radio. And he was one of the voices that I first took to coming to Huntsville. And he's been doing radio for all of my life. All of my life he's been doing radio. And he was a member of our church, sang in the choir with my mother. And just watching his trajectory from radio to now, he's the director of the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. He was formerly the Multicultural Affairs. And he was one of the first people from the city to embrace me going through trying to create these bridges of entertainment in Huntsville with the city and with the community. And to where it's like, I don't see representation of hip hop, at some of these, what the city's getting behind. I don't see any hip hop in there. I don't see any, we're not there. And Kenny was definitely one of the first people that I know, that I personally, that he just, embraced us, for sure. And then Huntley Batts for what he's done with We Up, him and people are going to know this, and I don't know this, but, the story, of We Up, just how it began, back in the 50s. And it's in a small trailer, this is Black owned radio, and just what that means over the years, you know what I mean? Like the man's vision and just, man, see, now I start thinking about WZZA in Tuscumbia, Black owned radio station, she's Black, I can't remember her name. Again, just great story. So that's my influential top 6. Yeah, for sure.
Man. And dude, we could sit here and do this for hours, as Money Long say. But you got to get back on the road.
Yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good.
And like I said, I appreciate you coming through, man. And like,
thank you.
To me, it's an honor because
me too.
People,
for sure.
It's hard to break away from your family, things that you have going on, for you to come to Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Yes, we're in Murfreesboro. A lot of people think I'm in Nashville. No, I'm in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Murfreesboro.
You know what I'm talking about?
And just to come in and have a conversation with me, man. And I appreciate that so much, man. But before we get out of here, is there anybody you want to shout out? You want to give your all your social media handles and whatnot? Just go ahead and run them down for us real quick.
Yeah. So, man, thank you again. Thank you for the invite. This is something that we've been working on for a while. You've extended the invitation early on, so I'm finally glad that I was able to meet that and pull up and really cash in on that invitation. I love it. Again, I love what you're doing, and I'm definitely going to be paying more attention because I'm always wondering who's who, around places and whatnot. So you're my guide to finding that out. Who is this person? Why do I need to know them? What do they do? So on and so forth. So thank you for you and what you do. And again, your family, your company, your crew, everybody that's putting this together, everybody that's watching it, like, thank you. Because again, everybody here watching, you and your whole crew, everybody could be doing something else, good or bad. But the time that they're taking to watch this or put into it, to mix it, to edit it, to engineer it, to all the working parts. I mean, everybody from A to Z, like I for what it's worth, I appreciate you. And for just shout outs, man, just shout out to everybody that's making change, man. Shout out to everybody that's not complaining. Shout out to everybody that's making solutions. Shout out to the folks that are doing something about it. That whatever the obstacle is, whatever the challenge is, thank you for just not talking about it, like people that are making it happen on whatever level it is. So thank you for that. And everybody that's helped me, everything that we've talked about here today, podcasting, radio, man, I just appreciate everyone that's put me in this position, that believed enough in me to, to do what I do and to do what I love and to make a living out of it. Especially my wife, my kids, just believing in what I'm doing and allowing me, to be here. They're my managers. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I work for them. I work for the wife. I got to ask for time off. You know what I mean? To be here, like, can I put in the day off to go, do this interview? You know what I mean? So shout out to the wife. Right. Right. And shout out to everybody for that, for sure. But you can follow me on all your whatever social media you waste the most time on, you can follow me on it. T-Mill205, the one that you're just doing this all day long. Like, holla at me at T-Mill205, and also paradoxeast.org. If you have any questions about booking and from interviews, anything like that, or how we can again, you don't have to, we can be in different cities and I can still show you how to remotely, we can tap into your event or your performance and we can get you on Paradox East Radio. We got that. So yeah, thank you.
Man, shout out again to T Mills. It's been another episode of Donuts with Doe. If you want to follow us on all social media, it's at Donuts with Doe, and that's it on Instagram and Twitter. If you want to follow just my personal, whatever, it's at I am Doe on Instagram, and it's at _ I am Doe on Twitter because someone was hating and took my name. But anyway,
we gotta get that back. We gotta get that back.
And you can follow us on Facebook at Donuts with Doe, and like, share, and subscribe on all your digital streaming platforms, because
we 2 seconds.
Because we there. We are there.
Click that share.
And shout out to STP, Spread the Positive Network, with my guy Trent.
Shout out to Trent, man.
And we just here, and that's been wrap. Another episode of Donuts with Doe in the bag. Yeah, you see what I did there? Donuts with Doe in the bag. And we out.